Good morning. Hi, Robert. You are
Hi.
looking mighty fancy today for us. And like I was telling Robert backstage, I feel so underdressed compared to him. I'm gonna have to one up him one of these episodes.
It will be a big surprise if you do like a cosplay session and then I'll feel underdressed.
That's right. That's right. A full cosplay. There we go. It is Halloween coming up. So, and I like to say that use Halloween as my excuse, right? Because most people, if you walk around in cosplay normally, like I would around
Yeah.
the house, people kind of look at me weird. So, at least here in the United States. In Japan, they don't. They just, they always cosplay.
Okay.
So it's very common to see people walking around, in little get ups and stuff. It's kind of cool. Um, so good morning, everybody. It is another episode of Steam Talk 101, and how convenient that it's called Steam Talk today. Even though our
Definitely.
show is based on science, technology, engineering, art, and makers, we still love our coffee. So
Yes.
we are very excited about this episode because there is nothing more important in the world to Robert and I than coffee.
That's so true. It's like how many cups of coffee do you drink before you like start working or get out of the house?
Right. You know what? I used to be a continuous coffee drinker throughout the day, and my
Hmm.
anxiety would catch up with me. So, like by the time it was like 12 o'clock, I'd be like, okay, what's my next project? So I had to calm it down, Robert, and I think my max is two.
Two
Now
cups. Okay.
that's caffeinated. So I will
Okay.
drink like an iced coffee in the afternoon, like later on. But I try not to do caffeine once it starts to
Okay.
get a little late. Yeah. What about you?
I probably have like 4 cups before I leave home, and it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. So usually wake up, then I have a cup of coffee, then I get ready, and then I have a cup of coffee, then I have a chat to my dad, then I have a cup of coffee, and then one just before I go to work again. And then usually when I get to work, then it's like, hey, let's quickly walk to the staff room and let's get a cup of coffee. So it can easily add up from 8 cups of coffee up till 15 a day.
Oh my gosh. And I thought I was bad. And when we show you some of these statistics later on in the show, I'm starting to think that the high end statistics is really just Robert.
So this is cup number 5. Just saying.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. This is number one. But see,
Oh
you
wow,
are you are like 7 hours ahead of me, right? So
that's also
yeah,
true. Yeah,
yeah. So five cups. I'm thinking that's actually, it's
it's
not
actually
too. I
good.
guess it's
Not too
yeah,
bad.
you're right. But then again, Robert, and for all of our audience, we do have mindful
Mhm.
gaming coming up later tonight, which is going to be about 1 o'clock in the morning for Robert. So he's going to be on
Mm,
his 15th cup of coffee.
probably. And I'll have one during the show,
That's right.
definitely to
That's right.
keep me awake.
Boy, we're gonna have to, get some counseling from Andrew on our coffee addictions, right? But speaking of coffee, we're going to jump right in because Robert, not only is coffee, as far as the drink goes, because there's so many different coffee drinks, right? That everybody really enjoys. And I think by human nature, we are very big on experimenting. So
Yeah.
we always have a new type or flavor of coffee being thrown at us all the time. And everybody wants to try it. We always want to be the one to jump on the bandwagon and say, hey, I tried it first, or you're an influencer and you want to show it on,
Yeah.
stream, things like that. But people forget that coffee is also in this tiny little coffee cake, which I love having coffee cake with my coffee in the morning.
Oh, that looks
So
lovely.
it's very, soothing and especially warmed up. So while you're doing your little thing, I'm just, go ahead and do your show.
That's fun.
Mhm.
You know what? I actually had a bit of chocolate just before we started. So I had my bit of bittersweetness. I love dark chocolate as well. And that goes down really nicely with a cup of coffee.
With
I mean,
coffee.
you get all these, like you say, the flavors. I mean, the people will have mochachinos or
Hmm.
like coffee milkshakes, and then it's as like the cocoa powder all drizzled over it. So coffee and chocolates, or chocolate flavored coffee and coffee flavored chocolate, they always go well with anything.
Yeah, you can't go wrong when you have coffee in mixed in with something, right? So,
Yeah.
wow. So I'm gonna let you start it off today, and because you are our coffee addict, and since you are on your fifth cup and I'm only on my first cup, I'm gonna let
I'll
you
make
take
sure
it
that you wake
away.
up. All right. So what I want to chat about is, all the different kinds of coffee that a person gets, and also want to show a little video clip of the most expensive coffee. And I think a lot of people might know of it, but just to also. There's two video clips that I want to show, where coffee beans come from and how coffee is made. So let's first see where coffee beans come from, and let's have a look at this little video clip.
My name is Mike Jones, and I'm a barista at Third Rail Coffee, right by Washington Square Park in New York City. I'm going to teach you some basic coffee making skills. Where do coffee beans come from? They are grown mostly in tropical climate at a higher altitude, and at least that's where the quality beans are going to be coming from. There are three main growing regions. This is in Africa, Central South America, and Indonesia. Some of the biggest coffee producing countries are Brazil, Colombia, Ethiopia, Sumatra. There are two main species of the coffee plant in general, and there's Arabica and Robusta. And any specialty coffee is going to be Arabica. There are some Robustas that are in recent years of a higher quality, but still you won't really see that at any reputable coffee shop. The Arabica is higher growing, lower yield, more susceptible to disease, and therefore a little bit more tricky to process. So depending on where a coffee is grown, it can taste vastly different, even if it's the same kind of coffee. Within the two main species, Arabica and Robusta, there are countless varietals, very similar to wine. So different kinds of trees, different strains. They're named things like Bourbon, Catuai, Caturra. There's just an endless amount of names. It ranges from the altitude to what the weather was like that year, the humidity to what country it's grown in. It all tastes different. You can have a Bourbon varietal, for instance, that's grown in El Salvador or grown in Kenya, and they'll just taste completely different. And I think that's one of the really interesting things about coffee, is just the endless range of flavors that you can discover. And some of them are just not repeatable at all. It just depends on that one harvest, that one climate, and that one varietal. And that's what makes it sort of a temporary, exciting, special thing.
So it's quite interesting how all these things factor into what the coffee would taste like, and then obviously then you still have your dark roasted or your medium roasted coffee beans that also change the flavor, where it makes it a bit more bitter if it is a darker roast, or if it's a lighter roast, then it has a bit more sweetness. Obviously, coming from a berry, you would think that it'd be really sweet then, because berries tend to we kind of use that as a replacement for sweets in that sense, or candy. Then you rather have berries because it's a healthier option and it's fruit sugars instead of having sucrose. So that's quite interesting to see where it comes from, and the different like the Arabica, or the differences in the makes, or where they come from. And then obviously also looking at how coffee is made. If we think of our instant coffee, Kat, I know, like, if you think of the places in America, Starbucks is very big. and the Dunkin' Donuts with coffee. So, and that's obviously like either filter coffee or pressed. And then I don't know how popular is like instant coffee. Is it like a normal
It's
thing in
pretty
the American?
popular. Yeah, absolutely. We have
House to have a kettle and just have.
uh-oh. Am I losing you?
Oops,
Are you on your fifth
I'm
cup
still
of
here.
coffee? Yeah, you're
I think my computer needs coffee.
your computer needs a coffee. Yeah, to answer your question, yes, instant coffee is very popular. Keurig is one of the top selling instant coffee makers, and it kind of expanded about, I'd say 5 years ago. It became a trend where people had to have a Keurig in their home because it was so quick. And I think that kind of goes along with the fact that we are an instant gratification society these days. So we have to have our instant coffee. Even now, I don't know if you see this, but with going through a coffee drive-through is slow for me.
Now the thing is also with the depending on the price, it will probably be like about $5 average for a cup of coffee, or that's more or less, or you can charge that for
Yeah,
coffee.
so you're talking about just a regular cup of coffee then, right?
That's it.
Yeah, so
Was that
yeah,
so
about
cheap?
exactly. So about $5, I would say, but it depends on, what type of coffee you're getting, because there can be, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some
Yeah.
shops that like you're almost spending $20 on a huge cup of coffee, So there's some big bucks in that industry.
Yeah. So now you're actually speaking in the right direction, because the thing is, it really depends on what coffee you get. Now, if you look at instant coffee, it's often not pure coffee, and they actually combine it with chicory. So often you find people that are sensitive to caffeine, they'll either have chicory coffee that is completely just chicory. It kind of tastes the same. It does have a bit of an aftertaste. But usually with instant coffee, they blend it. Then they have like say 80% coffee granules and then chicory to kind of add up to it, and that way it makes it a little bit cheaper. Obviously, because if you drink 15 cups of coffee a day, it's going to work out expensive. So they make it more affordable for the consumer to buy that. So often they mix it with chicory. But also just a little process. I want to show you a video clip on how coffee is made, and with the roasting and all that. So that's really cool. So let's check that.
Coffee. There are so many ways to enjoy it. But how is it made? The process starts all the way at the plantation. What we call coffee beans are actually the seeds of trees such as Coffea arabica, the source of around 70% of the world's coffee. Around 30% comes from Coffea canephora, or robusta trees. There's also the less common Liberica and excelsa trees making up a few percent of the world's coffee source. You can't just grow these trees anywhere. Their fruit thrives in higher, cooler areas of the tropics, specifically at temperatures of 64 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The fruits can then ripen slowly, allowing them to develop deeper, richer flavors. Continuous exposure to temperatures of around 86 degrees Fahrenheit can lead to faster ripening, which damages the coffee plants, stunting growth, yellowing leaves, and even leading to diseases like rust. Warmer temperatures also mean more pests. The next step is harvesting the beans. It takes about 3 to 5 years after planting for the trees to start bearing fruit. The fruit, called the coffee cherry, is ripe and ready to be harvested when it turns a bright, deep red. Workers then begin the harvest. This is done by hand in most countries, but Brazil's mostly flat terrain allows them to mechanize the process. Once the fruits are harvested, processing begins. This is when the coffee beans are extracted from the fruit. The traditional method of processing coffee fruit is the dry process, where the cherries are spread out to dry in the sun before the pulp is removed. In the wet process, the pulp is first removed from the coffee cherries. Then the beans are placed in water-filled fermentation tanks to remove any pectin still attached to the beans. When fermentation is complete, the beans are rinsed and then dried. To dry their fruits, larger plantations often opt to use mechanical drying machines in order to offer coffee producers greater precision and control over the quality of their batches. Machines can also help speed up the process, as drying can take up to 4 weeks without the help of machines. The final step of processing coffee is milling, separating the dried out husks of the fruit or the parchment layer from the bean. This step is mostly done with the help of machines called hullers. They use a combination of air and friction to quickly extract the bean from the dried remains of the fruit. After this stage, the beans may be polished to remove any skin that remains after hulling. There is then a final round of grading and sorting by color, size, and quality. The beans are also examined for any flaws or other imperfections. Once this is done, it's time to roast the beans. This is where the green coffee beans are transformed to give them their distinct, rich, brown color and aroma. Industrial roasting employs the use of a large preheated drum. Coffee is typically roasted at temperatures of between 350 and 500 degrees Fahrenheit. When the beans reach an internal temperature of around 400 degrees Fahrenheit, they begin to turn brown, and the caffeol, a fragrant oil locked inside the beans, begins to emerge. This is why the amount of time the bean is roasted can drastically affect its flavor. Light roasts produce a tangier, sweeter brew. Dark roasts bring out the deeper, bitter flavors of the beans. The penultimate step is grinding the beans. Whether this is done in a factory in a large industrial grinder or at home in your personal one, the basic principle is the same. However, if you intend to do this at home, it's important to note that the size of the coffee grounds can have a significant effect on the overall taste of your brew, depending on the method used to brew the coffee. Too coarse of a grind can lead to your cup tasting sour, acidic, and salty. On the other hand, grinding your coffee too fine can lead to a bitter, bland cup. And now for the last step, brewing your coffee. Regardless of how it's done, whether it's with a fancy espresso machine or a simple pour-over, the basic principle is the same. Water is used to extract flavors from the grounds. Many factors can affect the taste of your cup of coffee at this stage, such as the mineral content of the water used, the bean-to-water ratio, the amount of time the coffee is left to brew, and the temperature of the water. Variations in any one of these can lead to wide differences in the final product, regardless of the quality of the actual bean. It's easy to take this everyday drink and all of the hard work that goes into producing it for granted. So the next time you have a cup of coffee, maybe take a moment to savor the journey it took from bean to cup.
So the interesting thing is that coffee can taste different from person to person, and using the same ingredients, and it's my cup of coffee will taste different to what yours tastes like. So that's actually quite interesting because depending on it, I was at a function where I spoke to a barista, and when they boil the kettle, they say that the temperature goes up it's slightly too high. So when as soon as it's boiled, you actually open the lid to get rid of the excess steam, and then you close it again, and then you start pouring it, because some people say that if you pour the water straight onto the coffee, especially with instant, then it actually burns the granules. So that's why
Oh,
some people also put they put the milk in first, and the sugar, and the coffee powder or granules, and then they put the water in later. Then it tastes different. It gives it a bit of a creamier effect than if you just have the the powder and you add water immediately towards it. It also, even when you stir the coffee, it sounds different.
Oh, really?
It's almost, if you pour the water first and you put the milk in later, then it has like almost like if you stir it, you actually hear that it sounds thinner. There's a thinner viscosity, so it has like a clingy sound against the cup. And if you put the milk first, it actually has like a darker, muddier sound, which is actually, some people drink their coffee according to sound. So you can even hear
Really?
when you stir the coffee and you have sugar in, that it sounds different when the sugar has completely dissolved in the coffee.
Dissolved.
So,
Wow. That, I never knew that. That is very interesting to know. And just watching the process of the whole thing is a science for sure. Because if you think about it, it's brilliant. How would we know from this little bean, how to affect the taste of something? The darker roast, the medium roast. I mean, just which one we should use for certain. It's just amazing. It's almost like wine, I mean, basically it is like wine, but it's so interesting that, mixing that and having to, listen to the sound of that. I'm going to try that sometime.
get different people to make coffee and taste whose coffee is the best.
I'll be the test taster. Yeah, that for sure. So what about you? Can you drink? How do you like your coffee?
I usually have coffee without sugar, but I do take milk. And when I make coffee, also I put the milk first, and then I add the coffee granules, and then I put the water afterwards. So, and also like I don't usually put the water immediately, so it does stand a bit before. It doesn't have to be boiling hot, but a warm cup of coffee is good for me.
Yeah. I am I'll put it to you this way. Everybody that knows me will ask me, do you want some coffee with that sugar?
Oh, that's quite hectic.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
Some people actually use honey. I don't know. Have you had coffee with honey in?
I have not, but I have a while ago, and it's actually very healthy for you to have it that way. And even if you buy the beans, the coffee beans that are slightly glazed with the honey, is a big taste difference. So it's I like it. I actually like it, but I have not had it in a while. So that's something on my list, huh?
Yeah. And there's so many things that people use coffee beans for as well. I don't know if you've been into like a store where they sell deodorant, and usually you spray onto a little piece of paper and then you smell, and then they have like a little pot with coffee beans to actually just to neutralize the smell. So you just smell into that and then you can go into the next one. Right. So that's also quite cool. They use that fragrance to kind of neutralize the smelling palette to go from the one.
Let's hope that you don't have a cold when that happens.
And some people eat the beans just like that also as a little snack, which is quite quite a acquired taste. And they said that it also chases well with a shot of tequila. So I don't know.
You might as well. You have what is it? Kahlua has coffee in it. So and that's one of my favorites if we're talking coffee adult beverages.
So we also get different, in different cultures you have different ways of making coffee, and also different prices. And I want to show a little clip of probably the most expensive coffee that you can get in the world, and where it comes from. So this is quite interesting. Brace yourself.
Oh gosh.
I'm about to taste the most expensive cup of coffee in the world. This cup of Joe will set you back, wait for it, a whopping $90. What makes it so special? It's brewed from a coffee bean called the Kopi Luwak, harvested, believe it or not, from what your cat leaves in the litter box. We're not kidding. The Indonesian civet cat eats coffee cherries. That's what comes off the tree. Then the cat does his business, and the seeds from the cherries are dried and roasted into coffee beans. Jack Nicholson tried it in the bucket list.
Kopi Luwak, the rarest beverage in the world.
And now I'm giving it a taste.
It's very smooth.
$90 may seem pretty outrageous for a cup of coffee, but exclusive and very expensive coffee is growing in popularity. And now Starbucks is getting in on the pricey coffee craze with a new chain of high-end coffee shops. Fox business anchor Trish Regan.
People love coffee, and they're willing to spend a lot of money on it.
This Starbucks store in Manhattan even goes by another name. It's a Starbucks Reserve store. Here, a cup of coffee starts at $4. And if you opt to have it brewed by the siphon method, a technique that actually dates back to the 1800s, that will jack up the price to $10.
They're also looking to really cultivate the high-end consumer. Starbucks has become pretty mainstream. It started out as kind of a luxury item. If you're willing to spend $5 on a cup of coffee, that certainly is a luxury. Well, now they want to really exploit that market even more.
Can coffee drinkers really taste the difference? We took our pricey coffee to the streets of Santa Monica.
I think I like this second one myself.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a milder kind of.
That's the dollar coffee. Most people prefer the cheap coffee.
No, I think I like this one better.
This is the dollar cup of coffee.
Really?
Okay, that Misaki just got all excited that her poop can actually sell pretty good. She perked, no pun intended. She perked right up. This is that really?
How crazy is that?
The very rich and famous live in a totally different world than us. But I'll tell you what, when I heard that and when I saw that, I immediately looked at my cat and thought, cha-ching!
So we'll have to change Misaki's diet to coffee berries.
Coffee berries. Wow. Robert, why did you have to show that to me?
I must be honest, I won't be keen to try that. I won't.
No, no.
Unless I don't know. But $90 for a cup of coffee.
Yes. That was my biggest thing. I was like, wait, what? I could, use that for a whole week of coffee. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So people use a lot of things also in the sense of healthy coffee. There's a herb that they call the king of herbs, which they call Ganoderma or reishi. It's a mushroom that they actually grind down, and they also use it. It's if you think of how much coffee is consumed a day, it's like literally second to water, and the amount of coffee that we drink in general. So to take something instead of like popping a pill, for healthier living or something, rather take one thing that you do daily and turn that into something that's like self-medicating. So they turned towards this mushroom that they infuse into the coffee, and it's basically they claim that it helps with free radicals, and they use it for cancer treatment, even with neurological things, and they kind of say it's like the fountain of youth. So I've got a little clip that shows us what the mushroom looks like. So obviously, goodness. I think if you're allergic to mushrooms, then I won't suggest it. So that's kind of.
I don't know. I've never tried. I hate mushrooms.
But let me show you what this one looks like. So that's quite cool.
I'm about to taste.
So in this case, the motion was actually quite magical. If you saw it, it actually can assist with repairing DNA damage. So that is actually quite
is.
spectacular.
I'm surprised a lot of people haven't jumped on that though, because with today's day and age, the way people are looking for all natural, age defying remedies, things like this are, very should actually be pretty popular, but I actually have not heard of this. I'm
Yeah.
pretty surprised though, because, and I'm wondering if I do some more research about it, how it actually affects. I know it says it doesn't have any side effects to it, which I'm all about, because one of the biggest things with trying things is side effects, right? And so that was my question. And then when that popped up, I was like, okay, but I'm wondering how that works. Like, can we drink that or use that if we're already on medication, if that's going to cause any effects? So that's something we should look into to see. And if anybody knows, let us know.
Yeah. I think in general, if you look at medication, often they say that you must be careful with stimulants. So caffeine being a stimulant, it can often, create, say for instance, if you take, if you have coffee with anxiety medication, it can lessen the effect of the medication. So it actually works out of your system quickly because it increases your blood circulation and your metabolism. So those type of things. So I actually drank the Ganoderma coffee for quite some time. So I have like a autoimmune condition, if you can call it. So I'm literally allergic to cold. So it's called cold-induced urticaria. And
I've heard of that.
It actually helped me, like it made me less sensitive to the cold. So
wow.
I mean, I can't remember the last time that I had like a breakout. So and we actually had like cold weather also recently. So usually then my fingers would swell up. It's almost like a bee sting. If you're allergic to a bee sting, then it actually swells up like that. So I usually make sure that I'm rather warmly dressed instead of going out. So that's quite hectic. So this has been. Yeah, I actually sold the coffee for quite some time. There was like this network marketing company that actually made this coffee, and it was one of my selling points because it worked for me. So it's actually quite cool.
So do you still drink? You drank it when it's cold then?
I drink it. I used to drink it in general, but I haven't had in a while. So I think after, I think it was quite difficult to get hold of it during our lockdown period. Obviously because it was from American-based company,
right?
And so it was difficult to get hold of it. So then you get out of the habit of drinking it. So I just referred back to normal coffee, and so I haven't tried it since. But I think you can, if you go to a herbalist or something, you can actually get that. Like off the counter. So if you want to infuse it with your food or with any beverage, then you can just add that to it. I think, just always, I think anything that we recommend in general, we're not pharmacists or doctors. So if there's any contraindications to medication, always just check with your physician before you try something new.
Correct. Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for the other, and vice versa. True. So definitely, if you are interested in trying this type of coffee or trying, the certain herbs or anything like that, make sure you check with your physician, and definitely don't tell them that Robert showed you this and made you take it.
I'll wash my hands. I'm not guilty.
Not guilty. I'm not guilty. That's right. We're all adults here. Take responsibility. But
so,
wow.
Also recently we spoke about we had a bit of a travel blog going on SteamTalk a few weeks ago, and I was talking about Istanbul and Turkey. And there's also a specific, they speak about Turkish coffee. There's also a specific way that they make it. So I've got a lovely video clip of how they make Turkish coffee. And they brew it in sand. So which is actually quite interesting.
Better than that kitty litter.
Yeah, definitely. So first you drink the kiddie poo, and now you make the coffee in the litter.
And now you do sand. That's right.
In the sandbox. Let's check this one.
çay ver 3. İçeri kahve 10 buçuk abi. 10 buçuk. Bana bir tanesi şuraya bırak. Bir şey var oraya bırak 2 tane mağaza evi. Kaç para?
Vallahi kızım olana bak kahveyle çay içtim 7.
Nerede? Yok yok.
İyi de alınca bakar mısınız? İyi de alınca.
Gel bak bir.
So they literally, is that warmed sand? Is that how that works?
Yeah,
That is
I would,
insane.
I would think that they, because it's like a Middle Eastern country or something. I'm just like assuming that they would make the coffee in the desert on the hot sand or something.
Yeah.
So, but they actually the sand is warmed and then they actually stirred around because of the metal pot. So then it heats up and then it actually boils. It gets really hot.
Yeah, I didn't at the end of that, I was like shocked because it kind of foamed up there and I thought, wow, it's doing its
Yeah.
thing. I did not realize that. I guess if you live in a sandy, deserted area, it's so warm. Now, the hottest place I've probably been is like Nevada or maybe New Mexico, but and the sand does get very hot. So I can imagine like cooking your coffee on the sand. Wow. Did you have a cup of that when you were there?
I did quite a few. The thing is that sometimes, if you have a cup of coffee, like even like I assume like if you drink decaf, it actually tastes stronger, but obviously it doesn't have that caffeinated effect. So
Right.
the Turkish coffee does have a stronger flavor,
Okay.
but it doesn't feel like it affects you as much as like it doesn't feel like it's like a high dose of caffeine.
Okay.
And it's quite nice because I literally would have it without milk and without sugar. So it does have a bit of like a sediment at the bottom where it's like when it's boiled or something, then you don't well, I didn't drink the whole cup because it has like a sandy type of texture at the bottom, so it's still some of the coffee granules that are at the bottom, so you don't drink all
Oh,
of it.
okay.
So, but
Okay.
it's really appetizing. It's really nice, and it goes well with with anything, any dessert, or even just having a cup of coffee, a cup of Turkish coffee. It actually has a very smooth taste.
Oh, wow. I will
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to try something. I love trying different coffees. And I used to be on a coffee kick where I'd subscribe to different coffees throughout the world just to kind of try them. But my problem is like I love my flavored milk with my coffee. So I try different flavored coffees. Like my favorite one right now is like almond
Yeah.
joy creamer in my coffee.
Wow.
So delicious. And then of course now being fall, I love the pumpkin spice or the s'mores flavor. So I'm always trying to it kind of offsets,
Yeah.
trying the coffee itself when I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
put the flavors in there. So but you don't put anything in it. You just kind of drink it straight.
Just straight. But the thing is,
Wow.
like sometimes if you have like the commercial coffees, like if you go to, well, we don't have a Starbucks. We have like the McDonald's, or
Oh, okay.
we have a Mug and Bean. That's also quite nice. Then sometimes they have like flavored blends, if
Mhm.
it's like filter coffee, or they have you either have the filter or you have like the flavor, and
Mhm.
sometimes they have like they'll have funny names like the Slow Goose, or it's then the flavor kind of explains, or the name kind of explains what it tastes like.
Mm,
And sometimes they also have syrups that they add to it, so it could be
yeah.
like walnut, or caramel, butterscotch. Sometimes they add
Wow.
that to almost like a additive, or added thing to flavor the coffee.
Right. Right. It's coffee is, and we could go on and on and on about this topic because there's so much to it. But one of the biggest things that in reviewing coffee itself was the statistics of coffee,
Yeah.
and how big of an industry this has become. And how much, and I don't like to say that, we as human beings become addicted to certain things, but are we addicted to coffee? And is it something that we can go without for like a whole day? I know some people, they go through withdrawal where they get headaches if they don't
Yeah.
have coffee. And so, really it's one of those things where if we are spending so much money on this product every
Yeah.
year, or even just like every week or every month, and we feel that we have to have our coffee in the morning, we have to have a coffee at night, is this um really more about the push to keep us addicted?
Wow.
I mean, that the cigarette industry was the same way back in the 50s, right? They
Yeah.
glamorized it, and they made like all the movie stars look like they were just glorious every time they smoked cigarettes, right? So it made it turn, to be like a glamorous thing, that it was the cool trend to do. Are we in that same spot with coffee? Are we really drinking it because it's there, or are we drinking it
Yeah.
because we're addicted, or are we drinking it because we feel that's a trend and it is a glamorous thing to do? And so I was looking at some of these statistics. And before I go into the statistics, I just want to share that this episode is sponsored by my other company, which is Catnip and Coffee. It's work-life balance. And I'd really appreciate if you guys could take a look at Catnip and Coffee. This episode is sponsored by Catnip and Coffee, work-life balance on the go. So any of the profits that we make from Catnip of Coffee, we do send a portion of that over to the Steam Dragons for XP Crunch, to help them continue on with streams like this for Steam Talk 101. And it's all about work-life balance. We have vitamins, we have coffee, we have a podcast for work-life balance and creativity as well. Everything you need for your mindfulness. So check that out over at catnipandcoffee.com. So I'm going to bring this up on the, let's see, there we go. Perfect. I want to bring this slide up, and I want you and I to talk about this a little bit, Robert, because I love that you showed us how it was made, the different flavors that there are, the things that that we really don't see behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And it's really amazing how things are done, like from that little bean to our coffee pots, right, or our coffee cups. But there was a lot here that statistically was shocking. So, first of all, coffee shops are very famous here. I know, Robert, you said in South Africa, you don't really have the Starbucks. You have more like the McDonald's, the Dunkin' Donuts, things like that. But they've grown exponentially here in the United States. 32% of coffee consumers in the USA buy coffee from coffee shops 1 to 3 times a week. There is a coffee shop, no lie, on every single corner of my street. And you can go in any direction. And even if you were just to go a mile down the street, there's another one on the corner. There's probably 2 right, across from each other. And they're different ones. There's mom and pop shops. There's, of course, you have the corporate ones like Starbucks. And then you have the McDonald's and the Dunkin' Donuts, things like that. So they're on every single corner within a mile of me or within down walking distance, there is a coffee shop. And it is absolutely astounding how they are competing with each other and still making profit, right? Because there's so many of them. So by 2025, the revenue of roasted coffee market in the United States alone is projected to be $66 billion. I couldn't even imagine.
Wow.
$66 billion.
Wow.
Robert, we're in the wrong industry. I mean, wow. That's a lot of money.
And that's just the United States. That's not even internationally.
That's right. That's right. It's absolutely insane. So some of the health benefits of coffee, and Robert really touched on these, when we talked about the herb that was, the mushroom and so forth. But really, they have been doing this statistic for a very long time to kind of really figure out, is this healthy for us? Because the statistic they were afraid of was, we thought smoking was okay. Mm-hmm. Way back in the day, we thought silicone implants were okay. Yeah. We thought certain things were all okay for us for a very long time. Wow. So, and they turned out not to be. So here we are saying coffee is healthy for you and everybody's doing it and everybody's drinking it. But is it really? So they've been doing a statistic for a very long time, and drinking coffee on a regular level can reduce the risk of stroke and kidney disease and diabetes. Now, take this with a grain of salt if you are a viewer. It does not mean that this will prevent you from getting this. It just means on a certain level, the coffee bean is very healthy. It has antioxidants in it that really help build up that immune system and the risks. Coffee consumers are less likely to develop heart failure, and it increases energy. Obviously, we know that that's if you have the caffeine in it. And the body as well as improves the attention level of the mind. And of course, we talked about the healthy antioxidants in it. Robert, based on these benefits, do you feel that your drinking level, drinking coffee, when you see these benefits, does that make it better for you? Does it make you feel better?
It does. I think, I've always said, coffee it's more beneficial than it is bad for you. So, but I think anything in excess would, it's not necessarily good for you if you overdo it.
Right.
So, but I'm looking at the it reduces the risk of strokes and kidney disease and diabetes, then I'll pour myself another cup of coffee.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's a good thing that we've become addicted to something good for us. So like I said, and like Robert said, had previously, always check with your doctor, because we don't want you to, consume coffee every 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, thinking it's going to prevent the risk of stroke. So, just those are just some of the benefits.
I
Now,
also think when you
go
mentioned
ahead.
there that it said your attention, like the attention, what do you call it? Your like it helps to improve your attention span.
Mhm.
And I'm just speaking on behalf of myself, but being someone that has ADHD, I think also we tend to migrate to stimulants, and it's
Mhm.
kind of like a coping mechanism as well. So
Right.
I think that also kind of helps to help with the the attention, so that to
Right.
keep you focused and awake.
I agree. I completely agree as well, because I have, with, as somebody with anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
as well. It's more of, that peace of mind too.
Yeah,
That can help us. Now, you had briefly went over these as well, but there was 4 types of coffee roasting.
yeah,
You touched on these, and again, I just wanted to throw that up there to show the different types.
awesome.
Which one are you, Robert?
I would say the medium dark roast. I like
Okay.
the medium dark. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you did mention that you like the bold flavor. Like the,
Yes.
yeah. So, and obviously you do, if you're not, putting any cream or sugar or anything like that in there. And I put the whole dang cow in there. So, so, so yeah, so I'm more of a medium roast. Light roast in the morning, but medium roast towards the afternoon. So, and only reason why is because I can get like really upset stomachs with my anxiety. So I try the light roast just to start it off in the morning. So
Okay.
it's not too heavy on me. So that works really well for me.
Mhm.
You also touched base on the coffee brewing methods.
Yeah.
And there was, we went over the cold brewing, the French press, and the dripping. And I've become more leaning towards the cold brews in the in the summertime, because the here in Florida it gets so humid, and I just cannot drink hot coffee. But so in the summertime I do the cold brew, but anything else is just hot. And then we were talking about some of the most popular
Oh.
coffees. Which one are you?
I find that the Americano is actually not as strong because it's a
Oh,
bit watered down, but I love a cappuccino.
yeah. Yeah, I do. I like cappuccino, but sometimes I'll kind of go for the Americano. Espresso is too bold for me. It's too
Okay.
strong. I don't know why. Maybe it's I just it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it, but it's not one of my favorites either. So here are some coffee statistics. I'm not going to go through all of these because we're running out of time here, but
Okay.
we had said before that it's projected to be about a $66.6 billion in the United States alone. But cold coffee has a $29 million market as well. So really, we just kind of stuck coffee out there and said, where else can we make money? So,
Yeah.
so really, it's become such a big industry here in the United States alone.
Yeah.
But the United States is not the top,
Oh wow.
coffee drinkers. So
Okay.
that's a surprising statistic. Again, the top coffee producers, Brazil, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, let's move to Brazil, Robert. We'll become coffee producers.
Yeah. I love that.
But we can also move to Indonesia, Vietnam, and Colombia. I think I'll stay away from Colombia. Vietnam might be okay. I mean, their atmosphere is nice. I like the kind of the jungle feel, but I don't think I can be that too long. So those are the top producers. But here's a statistic that surprised me, and I wanted to you and I to kind of expand on a little bit.
Mhm.
Younger people are starting to drink coffee,
Okay.
a lot more than when we were kids. I
Yeah.
never, when I was younger, and this is back, again, this is back in the 80s when early 80s,
Yeah.
I never had coffee. Like it was it was just one of those drinks where I was like alcohol, I was like, oh, it's for the adults.
Yeah.
So I didn't have coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee until I was probably a junior in high school.
Yeah.
But now I drive by the high school and I see every person with a coffee in their hand before they start school.
Wow.
Is that now, with you being an educator, a professor in the field, do you see your students have coffee?
It does. And even myself, as a youngster, we actually did have like a half a cup of coffee in the morning, but it was never like strong. It was more like a milky type of coffee rather than something like really potent. But I do see youngsters actually drink more coffee. I think, in a way, maybe it is the same thing with regards to attention deficit or disorder, that you find that is a kind of spiked in the last 5 to 10 years. That all of a sudden now it's become a thing where it's not just kids being bored or just being naughty, where that's actually a condition, and that that they find that stimulants actually help as a coping mechanism. So obviously even energy drinks with a high caffeine intake, we obviously tell kids not to drink that, so they'd rather go for coffee, which is, it's if it's like alcohol, in it will be in a locked cabinet, but coffee is in the pantry. It's basically just open them and have a cup of coffee, so it's easy accessible.
Right. I don't know. I never, like I said before, I never did. But here's the thing, Robert. We're from different countries.
Yeah.
And in the United States, when we were younger, coffee was not a thing, but yet in Europe and Italy and and where you're at, coffee was okay. It was, you drank, it's like wine. In France, they drank it with their, when they were teenagers, with their dinner. So I think the where you're from country wise also makes a big difference as far as who's drinking it, and at what age. Because if you ask anybody in the United States from earlier ages, they would say I started drinking, but maybe when I was in high school, and then so I think that makes a big difference too. But
it's fascinating.
It really is. It really is. I love this topic because coffee is my thing. And that's one of the biggest things that you hear all the time when you go for a meeting is, would you like to, can I meet you for a cup of coffee? That's very popular. Here in the United States, of course. Do they do that a lot in South Africa?
Yeah. No, we definitely big coffee drinkers.
Yeah. Oh man. So we are at our cap today, and I hope you guys had had your coffee. While were you watching us? And be sure to join our Discord, so that you can leave some comments about the show today, what you thought, and also answer the questions of when did you start drinking your coffee? And the more we start sharing that information, the better. It won't make Robert and I feel so alone drinking our coffees. So, but Robert, I enjoy talking about coffee with you in the morning while we're having our coffee, having our meetings in the mornings, and in the evenings for you. But tonight it'll be evening for me, and it'll be morning for you. So it'll be very, very early morning for you. So be sure to join us tonight, Thursday, second Thursday of every month. We have Mindful Gaming, and tonight we're going to be talking about horror games and the effects of horror games on our emotional and physical impacts. We'll have some great tips, advice, and some stories to share about horror games. I am a huge horror baby. So so I don't know, I might have something that you guys are like, Cats, that's not even horror.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thanks, guys, for joining us on our next episode of Steam Talk 101. We have a special guest on live with us because it is Fire Safety Week, and we're going to talk with my own son, Robert, who is a certified firefighter, and he's going to give us some tips, advice on firefighting, on fire safety, and then we'll show some really cool fire reenactments. That'll be awesome. So be sure to join us then. Bye-bye, everybody.